Just got milked.
Wow, using only real data and transposing it from the last time the Bollinger Bands were this tight and volatility was this low at the end of 2018, we'll transpose both scenarios here in regards to a bullish and a bearish break and what that would mean for Bitcoin's price and how volatile things are about to get as soon as this break happens. We'll show you exactly what it would look like if Bitcoin had a break similar to these last 2 points in Bitcoin's history, and it'll most likely be much more explosive than you think. And guys, is it possible, like we talked about a few videos ago, that we actually do get that massive retracement because of this one indicator here, or is it all absolute gobbledygook? Bitcoin is on the verge of a huge move. And as well, is this XRP rival the next coin to have an explosive rally here in the next week? We'll be taking a look at that, and as well, Ethereum and altcoins definitely set to outpace Bitcoin in the short term and potentially throughout this entire bull cycle. And guys, contrary to this bearish scenario, Bitcoin options traders are actually not betting on a short-term Bitcoin price drop. There are so many mixed signals going on these Bitcoin charts. You and I both are eagerly waiting for this massive break, guys. Everybody in the community is basically still in stall mode. That's why everyone's transitioning to alts for the last few weeks, only covering them basically because Bitcoin has done absolutely nothing. However, we're gonna delve into these two massive scenarios. You gotta be oogling. Let's do this. Wow, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to an absolute late night megasode. We have a lot to get into, and I'm specifically making this video for one reason, and it's basically to show you this Bitcoin chart. Now, the data that we're going to show you is calculated using one of the tools here on TradingView, but it's specifically handpicked from two separate points within the last 2 years where Bitcoin's volatility was the lowest historically that it's been in that price range, in that time frame. And it's actually wild how specifically the bearish scenario lines up perfectly with the actual triangle that we've had going for almost 3 years now on Bitcoin's macro chart. It's absolutely huge. The bullish scenario basically speaks for itself, but this bearish one is even more interesting. So I'm insanely excited. But guys, huge, if you're new to the channel, make sure to drop your like and comment. We'll give this ledger away in the next webisode, so make sure to leave your subscribe, ding, and turn on the webisode. And as well, guys, a lot of you have been giving great feedback in joining here, T4V4, and specifically whether you want to learn charting, trading, my strategies, and specifically what I'm doing with alts, because that's all in these active investments updates down here, guys. Yeah, if you're interested in that, make sure to use the coupon code because that is a nice hefty 20% off the final price, guys. Absolutely huge. Without any further ado, let's dive into the webisode. Wow, guys, so this is the triangle that we're talking about, and the main chart we're going to spend a lot of time on here today is actually on the BLX. I wanted to get the historically longest amount of Bitcoin data here. And basically, what we're going to do is transpose two different time periods where volatility was extremely low, and both times an explosive move happened. And guys, I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that we're about to see an explosive move. The question everyone has been asking is, well, which way? And we're going to show you most likely what will happen if it goes either way, guys. This is very interesting, so I'm really excited to talk about these two ways here. I do want to highlight that while we had this drop, we were in the middle of this long-term 2.5-year triangle, and we had this move up, we were at the bottom. Now, so basically the third option is at the top because we were in the middle here, we were at the bottom here, and now we're at the top. And as you guys know, these Bollinger Bands, the last time they were as tight as they are now was all the way back here. We covered this about a day or two ago. And right about here, we had the biggest drop that we've seen in a very short amount of time period, in a very long time for Bitcoin right there. Similarly, guys, then we went into an ascending triangle and absolutely had a massive breakout in the summer of 2019, actually kind of throwing off the charts from what it kind of looked like the last halving, after the last halving. But now what we have is interesting here. So guys, if we actually take the bar pattern here, this indicator, and you just basically draw, let's just say that we draw from the drop to the next time that it reaches that same price level. Okay, it gives us something like this. And basically all that is, I already transposed it, but this is exactly what it does. Now this is really interesting because if we look at this, you can see, let's say we do get a rejection sharply off of right here. Okay, let's say we get that break to the downside. This actually lines up incredibly well. As you just saw, I didn't manipulate it at all. It comes up with the same exact pattern, drops here to the bottom of this, plummets through, tries to find support again. You can even see it actually goes down and coincidentally hits that absolutely lowest pullback area of about the $4,000 range that some people have been calling for, bounces around for a little bit, absolutely pumps back into this triangle. You can see finds support here for weeks and weeks, And then as soon as it breaks that, you see it turns into a massive breakout. So this pattern technically actually looks extremely accurate just based on the trend lines. And all it's doing is basically literally just copying from here. And let's actually do the whole thing. I'll do it right here so you guys can see how I made it. You just draw it from here where it actually broke out to it going into that rally, and it's the exact same pattern here, guys. You can see it transposes exactly over this. And now the reason this is so interesting, I think, is because it actually looks as though these patterns are lining up and providing resistance and support, even though it's completely arbitrary, right? These lines are just from a move that we had back almost 2 years ago, but you can see this actually lines up, and that's maybe some sort of fractal or something. You can see this actually looks like an extremely realistic price action when it comes to this pattern. All I mean by that is falling here, falling through, finding support at a very key level, and kind of just bouncing back in here, and as soon as it finds support in here, kind of just lifts off. And most likely what would happen after this also becomes insanely bullish too, and most likely climbs very much higher. But I just think that was very interesting how you can just transpose that, put it over here, and it comes into a situation that looks pretty realistic. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only bearish scenario for Bitcoin here, but what I want to say is I think that that's the absolute most bearish scenario for Bitcoin, okay? And then we're also going to talk about the most bullish, because there are obviously some other scenarios that could easily happen. Some people are even just talking about, as we were saying, maybe coming back to the $6,000 level. We talked about that a few videos ago. But ultimately, what this chart that I'm showing you right now is my most bullish scenario for Bitcoin and my most bearish scenario, because this is realistic price action, and as well it does hit so many of these targets that just make a lot of sense. This also technically would still be a higher low, as our first one was around 3,000, second one was around 3,900. This one would be about 4,300 if it came down to here and tested the very bottom of this. And guys, if we actually pull out the VPVR, you can see all of this lines up as well. I mean, for Pete's sake, you can see the VPVR is the second highest right here with this line, okay, this whole area here. The very highest right here, which is down at this support level right here. And then obviously this green box is one of the next biggest zones there. So all the TA lines up. It's not a really complicated TA, but it looks incredibly sensical. It looks like it would obviously make sense. And our next scenario is even more straightforward, which is this. After the last 2.5 years of consolidating in this seeming symmetrical triangle, we just break up, right? It might not be a massive moonshot for the first few weeks, as you can see here. It might take like a month or a few weeks after this to actually find support on the top of this, which would make the most sense. But as you can see, it could just go parabolic, and a price target of easily like 25,000, which again, I think is possible by the end of the year if things actually choose this bullish scenario. The more bearish scenario would have us actually breaking all-time highs, maybe within the next 7 to 8 months. So again, that's a little more prolonged. It would take about 8, maybe even up to 10 months to reach those all-time highs if the ultimate bearish scenario would happen here. And then the more bullish scenario, we could see that actually reaching all-time highs with only about 3 months from now. But these realistically, I think, are two scenarios that make a lot of sense. Let me know what you think specifically about this bearish scenario, because I don't necessarily think we are going to break 6,000 again. Realistically, for a bearish scenario for me, I don't think we're going to break 6K. But again, the point of this video is to show you the absolute most bearish scenario, in my opinion, and also the most bullish. With that being said, guys, I just wanted to go over some of these alts I have pulled up here, a little bit different. Some of them are the same from the last update, some are a little different. We have Chainlink actually getting a little bit of a pullback, a bounce around 7.6. XTZ still looking primed for a break, guys. We haven't actually broken this previous pattern right here, right around the $3 mark. If we significantly break above like 3.3, I think we could actually see this go a lot higher here. Interesting pattern here with VeChain, though. We're stalling right around this area, which is similar to Kyber Network, okay? Similar charting right here, where we have this kind of stalling where the price action was around the middle of 2018. Okay, for Kyber Network, it was around a little under, $1.70, and for VeChain, it was actually a little under 20 cents here. And guys, short-term price action for Bitcoin, this is very interesting here because technically we have this ascending triangle, but this 2.5-year resistance also does make up this smaller symmetrical triangle. As you can see, very valid here. You can see just how many lines of resistance it's at here. Same thing here, a lot of resistance, and a lot of resistance here as well. The only reason we don't only have that on here is because obviously it's broken out a lot from that 2.5 year, but it's gotten pushed back down every single time. But ultimately, this line is much more important here. And at the current moment, we're like literally just at the very bottom of this still. But again, before this date here, within less than a week from now, I mean, there's going to be no consolidation. And I think within the next week is definitely where we're going to see that scenario here, where we're going to get a decision where we initiate one of these moves. Now, keep in mind, the first week of these moves, both of them aren't insanely crazy, right? The price could go up to about $10,000 for the bullish scenario over the next week. And then the bearish scenario only has us maybe even going to 8,600, which is very interesting. Breaks 86, let's say that would happen, because that lines up with our TA as well. 86, we could see it go down to about 7,000 according to this. Ultimately, I think we would probably find support closer to that $7,000 range, but again, for our most bearish scenario, see as us maybe doing a pattern like this. But again, the main reason I'm showing you the most bearish scenario is to show you the most bearish and just get you prepared for potentially something like that happening. You can never count that out. Technically, the structure of the last 2.5 years would still be intact if that did happen, but it would literally push it to the absolute limit of what would be able to be intact. Okay guys, huge. So I wanted to cover this Connor Devitt Daily Hodl article. XRP rival has incredible potential, and he's talking about XLM here. So XLM has been very interesting. It's one of the coins that we talked about, and then I've made an update recently in the active investments tab because it is a coin that I'm holding here. So it says here, Peter Brandt says XLM has incredible potential and could be the next altcoin to see significant price action. So you guys are probably pretty familiar with Peter Brandt. He has a lot of followers here on Twitter. XLM is currently trading under 10 cents. It's gained 50% of value just in the last month though, and it's the 14th crypto by market cap. He's basically just saying, is XLM going to be the next altcoin to pump? It's been in this descending channel for quite a long time here, and similar to Bitcoin, what we saw within the last year, it did break out of that channel very strongly. And guys, if you're not familiar with Brandt, he gained a lot of fame because of that January 2018 crash, which he was calling for. And he also says, though, he expects Ethereum and altcoins, most altcoins, to outpace Bitcoin in the short term. And as well, I wanted to talk about Marcel Peckman's article on Cointelegraph. Crypto analysts have recently suggested Bitcoin options are flipping short-term bearish, but data just simply shows that's not actually the case. So basically the gist of the article is that bearish options are not that significant compared to the bullish options. Okay, so people are not overtly bearish when it comes to this information here. There is no evidence of fear or investors leaning bearish because of the 3-month annualized premium. So again, I just don't think for the most part there's too much data leaning bearish. The one thing that I was talking about in the last few videos is just this EMA ribbon here. Again, this is not a foolproof indicator whatsoever, and there's a lot of other stuff going on these macro charts. This is on the daily. This has only been going on for the past few months when we have yearly data and charts that were much more important, I think. But yeah, let me know what you think. What would you do in either of these scenarios, and which one of these do you think is more likely? Wow, guys, absolutely huge. Thanks so much for coming by. And as well, if you're interested in getting $50 free of MCO when you sign up and having a new place to buy and sell cryptocurrencies, check out the Crypto.com app, guys. When you complete registration, you and I both receive $50 free of MCO. And as well, if you're interested in learning trading, technical analysis, getting access to these charts, and as well getting access to the daily updates when it comes to active investments and altcoins that I'm interested in trading and purchasing, then as well, definitely check out T4, guys. 20% off with the code PLATINUM at checkout.